Welcome back to the fourth game in our narrative campaign in the war for Forge World Empirea. After the Imperial defenders have taken 3 losses to the invading forces, the Adeptus Mechanicus have pooled their data and unleashed the forces of Forge World Metalica to begin pushing back the invaders. Using the brand new 9th edition codex, we wanted to show off some of the rules for everyone, so we skipped the army preview, so we're going to include a quick rundown of the armies featured today. Forge World Metalica has the ability to move and still fire its heavy weapons without penalty, as well as advance and fire assault weapons with no penalty. In addition, when in close combat, enemy units count as below half strength. For HQ, we have a Tech Priest Engine Seer with the Metalica specific Warlord trait, saying that he can select an enemy unit within 12 inches and that unit has -1 to hit. In addition, he's also using the Metalica relic, the Adamantine Arm. This gives 1 attack at +1 to hit, strength ×3, AP -3, and 4 damage. For troop choices, we have a unit of 3 Plasma Cataphron Destroyers and a 10-man unit of Skitarii Rangers. Next is a 5-man fast attack of Sterilizers, and lastly the Archaeopter Full-of-Save. That's the one with the bombing run ability. Despite what this looks like, I assure you this is 25 power level. On the other side, in a surprising turn of events, or perhaps not so surprising if you've been watching our previous battle reports, Necrons have risen from deep within the planet. Using the Szarekhan dynasty, this allows them a 5+ feel no pain roll against mortal wounds, and each time the unit shoots or fights, they can re-roll one of the wound rolls, which admittedly we often forgot this rule, but it's kind of made up for by the amount of times they make use of the 5+ feel no pain. Finally, the protocol of the Undying Legion is the super protocol for this faction. This army is led by an overlord with the RELIC Orb of Eternity, allowing 1 unit within 6 to do a reanimation protocol for every unit lost up until that point, with +1 to the roll. In addition, the warlord is using the Szarekhan specific warlord trait, Triarch's Will, letting them reuse one of the protocols for the game. For troops, they used a huge block of 20 Necron warriors to take advantage of the orb, and finally in elites, a 5-man unit of Lich Guard, all with sword and shield for that sweet 4+ invulnerable save. The mission for today's game is Seed Malignifier out of the campaign book Plague Purge. There are 2 objectives on the table, and each side has the option to perform the action Malignant Interaction at the end of their movement phase. This action is completed at the start of the next command phase. Scoring for the mission has Capture and Control, with 6 points for controlling 1 or more objective, and 6 more points if you control more objectives than your opponent. You can't score this in the first round, and these objectives are scored at the end of the command phase. In addition, players can score a bonus 4 points each time they complete the Malignant Interaction. The Admech win the roll and choose the top half of the table and begin deploying first, and once deployed, the Necrons win the roll for first turn. One thing to note is that both the Necrons and the Admech have a lot of things that happen at the start of each turn between directives and protocols and assigning abilities, so for the purpose of this video, I'm only going to reference the abilities as they become relevant during the game, but they do declare these things during their appropriate phases. Now let's go ahead and get this game started. The Necrons activate the protocol of the Eternal Guardian, using the directive to give the entire army light cover so long as the unit does not move, and to take advantage of that, the entire army stays still. The Necrons are willing to give up a turn to let them counterstrike the Admech's greater mobility so long as they can weather the impressive firepower that 25 power level can put out. While the Necrons do fire a few shots at max range, it has no effect, and with that we're moving on to the Admech turn. The Admech also have Shroud Psalm active, giving the entire army light cover as well, however they are not under the movement restriction that the Necrons are. The Cataphrons advance, and the rest of the army moves normally. As a note, the flyer will stay flying high the entire game, using its maneuver ability to dance back and forth across the battlefield. For shooting, everyone that can fires into the 20-man Necron warrior squad. The Rangers have 16 shots, with Metalica allowing them to fire heavy weapons with no penalty for moving. This gives them 10 hits and 4 wounds, with the Necrons making 2 saves. The plasma gun and the arc pistol fail to do anything, and this allows one of the Necrons to reanimate. The flyer fires next with 16 Cognis heavy stubber shots, with 11 hits and 7 wounds, though the bonus to cover lets them make 4 saves. Unfortunately, the Necrons then fail to reanimate any of the warriors, and this gives some hope to the Imperial defenders. And at the end of the first round, there's no scoring at this time, so we're moving on to turn 2. In turn 2, the Necrons have successfully weathered the Admech's first round of shooting. They activate the protocol of the Vengeful Stars, choosing unmodified wound rolls of 6 to improve the AP on attacks by 1. In the movement phase, the Lich Guard advances, while the warriors and the Overlord move forward, getting a toe on Objective B. In the shooting phase, the Overlord's My Will Be Done ability lets the warriors hit on 2s as they activate the stratagems Solar Pulse, which remove the Skitari's cover save, and Relentless Onslaught, allowing unmodified hit rolls of 6 to score an additional hit. The Necron warriors open fire on the Skitari Rangers with 19 shots, scoring 18 hits and 13 wounds, with 2 of them getting the bonus AP. The Admech try to save, but it's not enough, and the Necrons delete the Rangers from the battlefield. And at the end of the Necron turn, they unfortunately are not able to score as they just reached the objective, as they brace themselves for the Admech's retaliation. Even with the loss of 1 unit, the Admech still have more units than the Necron and immense firepower. In addition, now that the Necrons have come out of their deployment zone, they are in threat range for the entire Admech army. In the movement phase, the Archaeopter is able to pass over the Necron warriors and uses the stratagem Seismic Bomb on the warriors to reduce their movement, as well as triggering the Bomb Racks rule. 10 bombs dealing mortal wounds on a 4+, deal 4 mortal wounds to the warriors. Thanks to the Necron dynasty, Szarekhan does get a 5+ roll to ignore mortal wounds, successfully ignoring 1 of them. As a note, we did make a mistake here, in that you cannot reanimate on wounds that happen outside of the shooting or melee phase. We do get this correct later on in the game, but for this roll we did not have clarification on this rules interaction. The Cataphrons and Sterilizers also move forward, while the Tech Priest retreats back for safety. The Admech have Protector Imperative active, giving the entire army +1 ballistic skill, but at the cost of -1 weapon skill. In the shooting phase, the Sterilizers start with their Flamers, rolling 17 automatic hits that deal 9 wounds, and the Necrons make 4 saves. Next is the Leader's Pistol with 5 shots, with 4 hits and 4 wounds. I also want to apologize here. We had a technical difficulty with camera number 1, so we switched to camera number 2. We zoomed in to give a better battlefield view of the action, but also left a bit of debris on the table. We do apologize, this will get cleaned up shortly in the game. The Necron warriors here make 3 saves, and during Resurrection Protocol, 3 of the warriors stand back up. Next, the Cataphrons roll for the 3 plasma cannons, getting 16 shots that land 10 hits, but only deal 4 wounds. A command point reroll attempts to land an additional shot, but fails and the command point is wasted. We did give the Necrons light cover from the pipes, giving them a 6-up save, and they land 1 save, and the reanimation protocol lets 1 stand back up. Lastly, the Flyer puts 16 shots into the warriors, landing 14 hits and 8 wounds. Again, the Necrons do get cover, and this gives them 6 saves, and 1 does reanimate. In the charging phase, the Sterilizers decide to press their advantage and declare a charge against the warriors, and in response the Necron warriors spend 2 command points to activate Overwatch. 18 shots from the Necrons, but only 1 lands a hit, and to make it worse, it fails to wound. In the assault phase, the sterilizers attack first. 8 basic attacks from the unit, landing 5 hits, but only 1 wound, though the Necrons fail to save. Though the Sterilizer Alpha misses all of his attacks, the one downed Necron does not reanimate. In their attacks back, the Necrons have 8 attacks that land 7 hits and 5 wounds. The Sterilizers make 3 saves, but these are 2 wound models, so only 1 model goes down. In the morale phase, the Necron warriors fail their morale check, despite leadership 10, though only 2 total models flee the battlefield. And at the end of turn 2, the game is still tied at 0. Though the Necron resilience is strong, they will need to find a way to regain control of the table if they want to win the battle. In turn 3, this is the time for the Necrons to make their big play. The Overlord activates the relic, the Orb of Eternity, which allows 1 unit of Necrons to trigger reanimation protocol on every model it's lost up to this point, regardless of how they were killed, and to add +1 to that roll. On the warriors, that's 14 reanimation rolls on a 4+. And in a painful roll, they only get 4 successes. In the movement phase, the Overlord and the Lich Guard close the gap on the Sterilizers. The Necrons will need to clear that unit off the objective if they are to begin scoring points. With the only unit with guns already locked in close combat, we skip straight to the charge phase, with the Lord making a successful charge, but the Lich Guard sadly needs to spend a command point reroll to get to base. In the assault phase, the Lich Guard spends the Necron's final command point to activate Eternal Protectors. This gives each Lich Guard model an extra attack, though the Admech currently have the Litany of the Electromancer active, meaning that the Sterilizers are -1 to be hit in melee combat. 20 attacks, lands 14 hits, and do an equally impressive 13 wounds. The Sterilizers only make 1 save, and that completely wipes out the unit. At the end of the 4th turn, do remember that in this mission, you only score on either objective in the command phase, so the setup for turn 4 and 5 is going to be crucial. In the Admech's 3rd turn, because the Archaeopter cannot hold objectives, they're going to need to find a way to deal with what is an almost full strength Necron army. In the command phase, the Cataphrons score 6 points for holding objective A, putting the first points on the board. In the movement phase, the flyer starts off again by flying over the Necron warriors, spending 1 command point to use seismic bombs to keep the warriors in place, then dropping 10 bombs the exact size of the Necron warrior unit. This scores 6 mortal wounds. Szarekhan's dynasty trait kicks in, and the warriors shrug off 2 of the mortal wounds on a 5+ roll, though no reanimation protocol triggers in the movement phase. In the shooting phase, the Admech decide to focus fire on the warriors, with 16 shots from the Archaeopter, landing 8 hits and dealing 5 wounds. 3 saves mean 2 Necrons go down, and unfortunately they also fail their reanimation protocol. Next, the Cataphrons fire into the warriors, rolling 10 shots. However, they score a clutch 9 hits and then land 7 wounds. The Necrons still get cover saves, but unfortunately it's not enough and it wipes out the unit, also denying any chance for reanimation protocol. And with no close combat, the game is going down to the wire with the Admech ahead 6-0. In the command phase, the Necrons get on the board with the Lich Guard controlling Objective B, tying up the score. The Necrons need to remove the Cataphrons if they want any chance at winning this game. In the movement phase, the Lich Guard advance, plus adding the movement buff from the Overlord, while the Overlord moves back onto Objective B and begins the Malignant interaction to score the bonus points on Objective B. With that, the Necron have no shooting left, and because they advance, they'll need to wait 1 turn till they can charge, though they are currently 12 inches away sitting with a 4-up invulnerable save. In the Admech turn, the Tech Priest has the Aggressor Imperative active. This gives the army a 3+ to their movement, but at the cost of -1 to their save. In a bold plan, the Tech Priest approaches the Overlord, while the Flyer crosses back over the Lich Guard, spending the command point to drop Seismic Bomb, cutting their move in half. 5 bombs drop on the Lich Guard, dealing 4 mortal wounds. We do miss the 4-up ignore for a moment, but we do remember it after, and it does save one of the Lich Guard, though unfortunately the other does not make enough rolls to reanimate. For shooting, the Archaeopter puts its 16 shots into the Overlord, dealing 4 hits and 4 wounds. The Overlord makes 2 saves, but it still takes 2 wounds. Next, the Tech Priest uses his Mechanicus pistol with 2 shots that have 2 hits and deal a clutch 2 wounds. The Overlord needs to make use of his 4-up invulnerable save and saves 1, but still goes down to 2 wounds remaining. The Cataphrons then choose to overcharge the plasma cannons, so now they're dealing 2 wounds each and fire at the Lich Guard. They do spend 1 command point for the Metalica stratagem, Deafening Assault, and they once again cut the move of the Lich Guard in half, effectively reducing them to a 2-inch move on the next turn. They get 11 attacks, and wisely spend the command point to reroll the hit roll of 1. They score 5 hits that deal 3 wounds. The Lich Guard fail all 3 of their invulnerable saves, and are forced to use 1 command point to re-roll a save in hopes of giving them any chance of fighting off the Cataphrons. Rolling for reanimation, they don't get enough successes to raise a 2-wound model. In the charge phase, the Tech Priest fights 1-on-1 against the Warlord, and while the Tech Priest only has 2 attacks, there's only 1 attack that matters. The Metalica relic, the Adamantine Arm, which gives +1 to hit and ×3 strength at AP -3, and most importantly, dealing 4 wounds. This means that the Tech Priest hits on 2 and then wounds on a 2, forcing the Overlord to use his invulnerable save, which the Overlord fails and is completely out of command points. This all but wraps up the game in favor of the Adeptus Mechanicus. In turn 5, we give the Lich Guard their 2-inch move. However, even with the command point reroll, they're unable to make a 9-inch charge into the Cataphrons. And after a long and extremely hard-fought battle, the Adeptus Mechanicus finally bring the first victory in the campaign to the Imperial defenders. We want to take this moment to give a huge thank you to everyone who's followed along on this first round of Combat Patrol games in our Warzone Emperiea narrative campaign. If you've enjoyed these battle reports, let us know by hitting the subscribe button down below. We make these games to hopefully entertain you and maybe inspire you to start up a new army, as though any of us really need more encouragement to do that. This channel has grown immensely thanks to these Combat Patrol battle reports, and in recognition of that, if we can hit 100 subscribers here on YouTube, I will do a special Combat Patrol video as a massive thank you to all of our subscribers. So we hope you enjoyed seeing 2 9th edition armies go at it, and I cannot wait for more armies to finally get their updated codex rules, and we will see you next time. Peace out, everyone.